Hi, I'm Rhonda Massat from the West Island News, and I am here with Brent Cowan. How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
You're a councillor for Pointe-Claire.
Yes, I am.
Second term.
Second term, District 8 Oneida, up in the northeast corner.
Okay, northeast corner, got it. Okay, see where you're at. Let's jump right in.
Okay.
What the heck's going on in Pointe-Claire, and what's going on with that council? We've had Tara, who has another councillor who was actually on the West Island News discussing issues that she's experienced. We had recently a potential, somebody actually left council, walked out on council, and resigned. It's getting hot and bothered over there. What is going on, and how do we fix it? Just as a side note, I have asked the mayor to join. I would love him to sit here and have his say as well. So this is not a one-sided thing. I hope he does decide to join in. I texted him 2 days ago. So I'm waiting for a response there. I know you had a council meeting last night, so maybe there's a bit of, he's probably busy, but he'll get back to me, I'm sure.
Well, what's going on? Well, as a context, to give the context, Pointe-Claire is undergoing a lot of change. There's a lot of construction going on, a lot of homes that are houses that are being demolished to give way to larger, more modern houses. People's lives are being disrupted because of that. You have condominium and apartment developments that are occurring, which are bringing new people in. So there's a lot of change going on, and people are afraid. And this all was activated 5 years ago with the Pioneer in Pointe-Claire Village, and that created a focal point of resentment towards change.
And it also made a focal point to that council, to the previous council. That was there was a lot of contention in that council because of the construction of the Pioneer.
I would disagree with that. We had disagreements on approaches, but I don't think it was contention.
Okay.
But there was certainly a growing disenchantment with the voters, and that carried.
It caused a divide.
That carried forth to into the election. It brought us a new mayor. It brought us a couple of new councillors, and so now we have to work together. Now the current mayor, well, the way council should work in a municipality is it should be collegial. You should have a bunch of people. They don't have any parties. There are no parties, so there should be no partisanship. It's just individuals that are bringing their individual talents and their belief in the community and their care for citizens into a room to discuss whatever issues are coming up, to make decisions so that the city can run, and to start providing some guidance to the administration on where we're going in the future. And
that's unique to a demerged city. For those of you watching who may not have that component, a demerged city does not run on a party system. So Pierrefonds does, but the 13 demerged municipalities on the island of Montreal do not. Everyone is independent. When you run, you're independent. You're not in a team. Correct.
But what happened with with this council is that the mayor very quickly turned it into a partisan situation. He created his own clique of councillors that he's labeled anti-development, and then he forced everybody else into a group that he calls pro-development. It's not true. As I said, council is supposed to come together. You look at each issue separately, as a distinct issue, and you try to find the best way forward. Nobody has a partisan or ideological perspective about the future of Pointe-Claire, other than let's try to make our city the best city for our citizens.
And in doing that, you need to do some development. You need to do some ecological sound movements. You have to consider the green. You have to consider the development moving forward, housing.
Yeah, we're not a sovereign state. We can't put a wall around our city and say that's it. So we have to deal with that. And the mayor decided that he got elected on a platform of stop development. So that's his plan, to stop everything. And he constantly throws wrenches into the mechanisms of government, because it's very easy to stop things. It's very difficult to get things going. And does that repeated obstructionist behavior where he derails what his own staff is doing? He derails them. And
in what way? There's a lot of accusations here. If we're going to do that, we're going to have to. How is that happening? Okay. How is he derailing his staff?
For example, this came to a head last night. We 5 months ago, we started a process of dealing with this interim control bylaw, which is a temporary measure to freeze development to allow us time to plan properly of what's going to happen, or what we would like to happen in the city. So 5 months ago, we start working on a plan of how to deal with the areas that involve, the 2 areas of the city that involve Cadillac Fairview, because that's the most economically vital area to Pointe-Claire. I mean, that area produces more than 10% of our tax revenue. If we fail to do the right thing there, we're sunk as a community. We're going to impoverish ourselves going on in the future. So we have to get it right. So we start this process. His staff come up with proposals.
What do you mean his staff?
Well, the administration. He's the mayor. He runs. Right. Yeah, he runs the show, in theory. So the staff, the planning staff, started us down a path of where they do their planning of proposals about how we're going to deal with this area up in Cadillac Fairview. 5 months of discussion along that line, and then just before Christmas, the Christmas break, the mayor suggests that maybe we should just delay. There's the wrench in the works. We don't have the legal right to delay.
In an interim control bylaw, there are parameters to the amount of time that you can have that interim control freeze in place.
Yes, you got to show a good faith effort that you're planning on, you're preparing to get it out. Yeah. And he said delay. That's all.
He said delay in council or in public?
No, in council.
Okay.
And so he introduced that new strategy, and that alarmed me. And that alarmed all of us. Because,
and what would be the goal? To just halt development?
Well, he ran on a platform of no development. So if he can delay till the next election, he delivered the goods.
Except the city does, as this has been done in Beaconsfield, where the delay tactic under one mayor delayed to a lawsuit that was quite large.
Well, we already have a lawsuit going on with Cadillac Fairview. They brought a lawsuit against us. There are lawsuits from other developers as well, which I won't comment on. But that's the environment. And but as I said, we have to get it right. I mean, in Beaconsfield, most of Beaconsfield is residential. Mm-hmm. So the consequences, well, it'll be grave, I imagine, for some residents. But here, as I said, in one policy area, you're talking about over 10% of our revenue. Okay, so that's like 16 million dollars. That if we get that wrong, take that from the budget, and then what? That's going to hit everybody in terms of their services. In Pointe-Claire, 1/3 of our tax revenue comes from residents. The other 2/3 comes from commercial and industrial. So we have to take care of them.
And keep in mind the 50% plus that goes to the aglo.
Yeah, well, and they tax, the aglo taxes on the basis of the financial potential, which is based on the real estate value. So again, if a community does not find the right balance of how to encourage revenue from the land, from the real estate, well, the aglo doesn't care. If you don't do it, they're going to tax it anyway. That means the citizens are going to have to pay, the residents are going to have to pay more out of their taxes. So to some extent, there's a pressure there also to enable, especially in Pointe-Claire, to enable commercial and industrial to actually grow so that they could generate the revenues that the land potential suggests they should. Because if they don't generate those revenues, the aglo's taking it anyway.
Right.
So then we're right now 52% or so of our tax revenue goes to the aglo. Mm-hmm. If we don't keep up, that percentage will rise.
Okay.
Or we'll have to increase the taxes to. So then we either increase the taxes to our citizens or we cut services at that point. So it is critical that we get it right. And a simplistic policy of just stop development by throwing wrenches in everywhere you can to do it, well, that's. In my belief, that's the key to disaster. The political reality, the unfortunate political reality, is that disaster may not be for 10 years. The next election is 3 years away.
Now you've had 2 councillors that have one actually left and one considered leaving. How is that impacting the team spirit? What's going on in your because there is a before and after group of people that have done that have been elected and following through. You've got incumbents, and not all the incumbents are necessarily like-minded. They're not like-minded necessarily, and we're not necessarily pro one mayor or the other during this previous election.
Correct.
So you weren't all united on that front, from what I understand. and now you've got a further divide. What is the mood on council now that you've got one left and one almost left?
Well, it's kind of bizarre because the mayor has pushed this narrative of the 6 versus the 2 or the 3 for so long now that it's sort of created a reality, but it's an inverse thing. It's not the 3 or the 2 or the 3 that are besieged. It's the 6 that are besieged because the mayor is using all his prestige and of the office and power of the office to throw brickbats at us. But it's also having, I used to be in the Army, it's having an effect what we call reverse morale. When you're in the Army and you're soaking wet, and you're slogging, and you're miserable, somehow that can create a group cohesion. That's happening.
That's what I'm saying. Before you weren't necessarily united. Now
no,
the 6 are united.
He's uniting us, which is really bizarre. But
okay.
It does have a beneficial impact because yes, he is creating out of us a more unified team, which is good for the people of Pointe-Claire because now we have to organize ourselves now in order to advance the city's business because the mayor seems to have no interest in advancing the city's business, and it has to happen. I mean, he took on the city clerk last night. She gave her advice on a question that came up that the question was out of order, and the mayor could have just said thank you and carried on, but he berated her in public. Like he argued against her very forcibly.
So the morale is bleeding out into the staff? I
believe that yes, there's this toxicity that the mayor is suggesting. He's going around to all the English language media outlets, I guess except yours, berating the toxicity of in council and implying it's us. Well, it's him, and that toxicity is extending to the workplace.
Did you experience this in your previous mandate?
No.
There was divide.
Oh yeah, I mean the last mayor campaigned against me in my district, so yes, there was divide. He wasn't very happy with me when I was speaking out against him. What this current mayor overlooks is that when he's trying to say that there's this 6 versus 2. I mean, I encouraged Bruno Tremblay, who's one of the 2, to run. He was thinking about running last election, and then he withdrew his candidacy. And Tim Thomas, the candidate for mayor, told him to call me. And he called me, and I didn't know who he was, but I just have a strong interest in advocacy for democracy. So I said, yes, you should run.
Anybody should run.
Yes. So I encouraged him to run. He asked me what it's like in council, and I explained to him, and then he decided to run. Same thing with Bridget Watson. She called me up because Tim Thomas asked her to, and I encouraged her to run. And I said, I'm not going to support you. I support Tara Stainforth, but you should run. So, like, how do you lump me into, after that, how do you lump me into this, the evil 6? That boggles my mind.
All right, so what do you think, what solutions do you have? Is there a solution? Can you offer up some kind of, let's try and get the Pointe-Claire Council back on track and maybe united? You do have another 3 years. Do you have any idea of how we could, as a group, could do that?
Yes, last night was a special meeting in order to pass a resolution, which, if we had a properly functioning council, would not have been necessary. The purpose of the resolution was simply to give the Director General the ability to do her job, even if the mayor tells her not to, because she works for council. But if the council doesn't give her specific instructions, then she works. Then the day to day she works for the mayor. And so we passed a resolution because for 5 months we've been working on this plan to engage Cadillac Fairview in a conversation so that we can start the process of public participation in determining the future of that land there. You first have to get the property owner on board to go. I mean, the mayor's approach is to exclude the property owner from discussions about the owner's property, which seems to me ludicrous and undemocratic. How do you exclude the owner from a conversation? So our objective was to, and the objective that was laid out by his staff, we've been working on this for 5 months, and we've been actually engaged in a exchange of written communications with Cadillac Fairview. The next step was for the DG, the Director General, to speak in person with Cadillac Fairview. That's where that's when the mayor threw the wrench in the works. So the purpose of the resolution is to give the Director General protection so that she could do what council told her to do, and the mayor can't stop it.
But isn't it true that council is more powerful united than the mayor is?
Absolutely. And
so you're 6.
Yes. This is what the this is where we're going to answer your question about how we're going to proceed. Well, the 6 of us are going to have to learn how to create a unified message. We're going to have to talk to each other, to discuss amongst ourselves how to get things done and agree on a path forward, and then bring it forward. And then, where necessary, go back to meetings and pass resolutions to make sure the Director General and the administration can do their job, can do what council wants, and can resist the interference on the part of the mayor, because he's their day-to-day boss. But he can't overturn a council resolution. But if we're silent, he's their boss.
This sounds very antagonistic. Is there a way to move forward peacefully, in your opinion?
Well, the way to move forward peacefully is for the mayor to start becoming a collegial leader instead of trying to be an imperial power. He believes that he got elected with a mandate from the people. He got elected by 18% of the eligible voters.
Yeah.
So what that means is that less than half. He got the vote of less than half of the people, and that voted, and the people that voted are less than half the people that could have voted. So he believes with that small group, he's empowered to turn the city 90 degrees. No, he should realize that doesn't work that way. He should realize that all of council are elected by all this broad base of people, and you gotta work with council to move. That means you're not going to be able to turn 90 degrees. You can turn 10 degrees, 15 degrees, whatever. It's going to be a more gentle turn, and that's democracy. It's in a dictatorship, you can just force any kind of change in society you want. But in a democracy, it's gentle, it's gradual, and then you get change at a pace that people can accept. His advantage is that people tend to not want any change at all, and so
change is rough.
Yeah, so he's trying to say you can have that, and that's you can't. That's an illusion. It's a mirage. Change is happening. We can't stop change. We have to moderate it, and
try to get the most benefit out of it.
And try to get the most benefit out of it. Yes, exactly for the future.
Because that REM is coming.
Yeah, the REM is coming shortly, and and the real estate values are. I mean, Pointe-Claire citizens some of them have taken it in the neck because the real estate prices have shot up in Pointe-Claire an average of 42%. Unfortunately, that average, if it was distributed evenly, there wouldn't be a shock. But it's distributed unevenly. So you have some people that their real estate values have gone up like 50-60%. Those people are getting a huge increase in taxes. And there's nothing, the flexibility that a municipality has to moderate taxes is very limited. And the tools that are available to us would have just created more confusion. So we had to distribute the taxes as they were. So that means that, as I said, if you have a 60% increase in tax in your valuation, you're going to get maybe a 20-25% increase in your taxes. That hurts. And so that creates additional political stress in the city on top of everything else.
As we wind up this interview, is there anything you'd like to say to the people of Pointe-Claire?
Watch. What I said last night is there's an issue of trust. Who are you going to trust? And you're going to have to watch and listen to make your own choices as to what messages you can trust and what messages are just political nonsense.
And by watch, you mean on the live council meetings? Live
council meetings, interviews, media. Before coming to a judgment, pay attention, and you can call your councillors, you can talk to councillors, and we're all accessible. So then you can listen to us and you can see whether if you come to your own judgment as to whether we're trying to pull the wool over your eyes or whether we're being earnest and just trying to be useful.
Because you have to keep in mind that council is made up of a bunch of neighbors.
Correct.
It's what it is. It's a bunch of neighbors.
Yeah, a bunch of neighbors, exactly.
Yeah. And
it hurts when your neighbors are yelling at you.
Yeah, people do have to remember in council that there are people, these are people, so everybody should take a breath and remember to be polite.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on this morning.
My pleasure.
All right. We wish you luck.
Thank you.
All right. That's
Bye.
Rhonda Massad from the West Island News. That was Brent